In this video, I'm going to demonstrate a simple iteration process. I have a 2-meter panel and a 4-meter panel, and what I'm going to do is I am going to change the models in 3ds Max, and then I'm going to update the FBX, and this will automatically update and propagate throughout the level. I will also show you how you can swap between models inside Unreal. So here in Unreal, I have a 2-meter section and a 4-meter section. These were super simple to generate, and basically they're a flat plane with text on it that tells me which one is a 2-meter and which one is a 4-meter. And I've done that merely so that as I'm looking around a particular section, I can spot which are which. So I have some 2-meter sections in this corner and 4-meter sections over here. And I've also got some pillars in, which we can discuss later. The other thing I'd like to draw your attention to is the UV coordinates. These are not good UV coordinates. They are the default for the plane. And as you can see, because the aspect ratios of these two pieces are not square, we don't have square UVs. You can tell because these are rectangles and these are rectangles. So we want to fix that as well. So here's my two models in 3ds Max. Take note that I have the UDK reference model, so I've loaded in my UDK Max reference file so that I know that I've got all my units set up and I know my export is set up. So it's very important to work to scale. So I'm just going to add some features to this piece of wall, and we will see how we can get it to propagate into the level. So I'm going to add a picture rail, and I'm going to add a skirting board. So I've extruded these sections out, and note there isn't any geometry here, and this will lead to problems because we won't get surfaces that continuously connect. It's okay for internal angles, but it's not okay for external angles. And also, obviously, when this connects to this wall panel, it's not going to match. So I need to decide how I'm going to connect these two pieces, whether they are going to match in terms of the picture rail and the skirting board. The other thing that I want to fix is the UV coordinates. So I'm going to apply some UV coordinates to this. And I'm not going to use the unwrap, I'm going to use the UVW map. And this basically allows me to set up a box. So I'm going to set this to box, and I'm going to set this to 4 meters by 4 meters by 4 meters. And I'm also going to make sure that the gizmo is on the origin XY and 200 in the Z. And what this does is it makes sure that my UV coordinates start at the floor and go up, whereas everything else is in the middle. So in other words, we have 6 planar projections, one from each side of the cube. So now I'm ready to export this. I'm going to overwrite the existing file. So there's my add flat 2 meter. And I'm going to replace it. In Unreal, you can see I get this message. Do I want to import because it's detected the change in the file? I'm going to go yes. So you can see that it has updated this panel piece, and it has updated all the panel pieces that are throughout this level. So note, on this corner section, we have a problem. So it's not a good idea to use these pieces for these kind of external corners. If it was for an internal corner, it would be fine. If I just demonstrate this by moving this piece into position, you can see for an internal corner, this is fine. We get some geometry overlap inside. You can see this geometry from this panel is poking inside. That's normally not a problem. So that's how you can update the pieces. So obviously, as I iterate and develop this piece, as I do another pass and another pass, keep your file of the FBX the same. You can save iteratively in your max files. In fact, I encourage you to save iteratively in your max files. But when you actually save out your FBX, just overwrite the file. Unreal will detect the update, and it will update and propagate around the level. Also, if you want to switch a panel piece from one to another, so say this panel piece, I want to switch to my lab piece. You can see here that it says this is the static mesh, and it gives me the title for the static mesh. And I can click on this, and I can see the other static meshes. And for instance, if I want a 2N piece, a 2 meter piece, I can just type 2M because my naming convention has 2M for all the 2 meter pieces. This means I can go in and find the lab wall piece and just click it, and it will now change it from my flat piece to my lab wall piece. Conversely, obviously, if I go over to a lab wall section and I go in and find a lab wall section, again, I want to swap this to a different 2 meter section. I'm going to swap this to flat, and you can see how it will swap it out. You can do this for multiple selections as well. So if you have an entire lab area that you want to swap out, you just select your pieces, you go in and you select what you want, and hey presto, it changes them. So going back to this section, one of the most useful things that you can have is a pillar piece. So areas like this are notoriously problematic, and it's far easier to build these pillars. So I have here, this is about a 120 centimeter pillar, and this would be a much better use for filling in this gap. So if I move this pillar out of the way, this would be really awkward, especially if we have things like dado rails and picture rails and skirting boards. Any flexing in this edge will cause me connectivity problems. The easy way to fix connectivity problems is to build pillar sections, and they basically just hide what happens at exposed corners.